A police captain saying he believes. Did you interview the people who claim to have seen the boy walking backwards up the wall?
I interviewed the registered nurse who witnessed or says he witnessed the boy walking backward up the wall. I did not interview the Department of Child Services caseworker. However, I had her report from that incident.
And did she claim to see it as well?
She claimed to see it as well, yeah.
The English word exorcism comes from the Greek word exarchosis, which means out of. Exorcism is the act of driving out or warding off evil spirits from a person, place, or thing. Demonic possession is said to manifest itself in people speaking languages foreign to them, showing abnormal strength, having abilities such as mind reading, and in some occasions, vomiting nails, pieces of metal, and shards of glass. The person, place, or thing must undergo the official Catholic rite of exorcism, which involves a consecrated priest invoking the name of God, as well as various saints and the Archangel Michael, to cast out their demons. In the Bible, you can find passages in Matthew 8:28-34, Mark 5:1-20, and Luke 8:26-39, where Jesus Christ himself performs an exorcism onto men being possessed by various powerful demons. We've all seen the famous movies, The Rite, The Possession, Poltergeist, The Devil Inside, and the classic 1973, The Exorcist. Those films can be scary and amusing to watch in the comfort of your home, but it's not as scary as when it happens to you or your family. This is the story of Latoya Ammons. In November 2011, Latoya Ammons and her 3 children, along with her mother, moved into a rental house in Carolina Street in Gary, a quiet neighborhood with small one-story homes. In just 1 month, they started to notice strange and unusual things happening in the house. Despite the winter chills of December, huge black flies suddenly started swarming their screened-in porch. "We killed them and killed them and killed them, but they just kept coming back," said Rosa Campbell, Latoya's mother. After midnight, Campbell and Ammons both said they occasionally heard the steady clump of footsteps climbing the basement stairs, and the creak of the door opening between the basement and the kitchen. No one was there. Even after they locked the door, the noise continued. On March 10th, 2012, Campbell said the family's unease turned to fear. It was about 2 a.m. Normally, Campbell, Ammons, and her children would have been asleep, but they were mourning the death of a loved one with a group of friends. Ammons, who was at Campbell's bedroom, startled everyone by screaming. Campbell said she ran into her bedroom, where her then 12-year-old granddaughter and a friend were staying. Ammons and Campbell said the 12-year-old was levitating above the bed unconscious. Ammons and several others surrounded the girl praying. Eventually, Campbell said, her granddaughter descended into the bed. The girl woke up with no memory of what had happened. Campbell and Ammons said the people who were visiting that night refused to ever return. After the event, Ammons knew she needed help from professionals. Numerous churches refused to help, but soon she found one that would. Eventually, after listening to Campbell and Ammons talk about the house and visiting it, officials at one church told them that Carolina Street house had powerful demons. They recommended the family clean the home with bleach and ammonia, then use oil to draw crosses on every door and window. Campbell and Ammons also reached out to 2 clairvoyants, who said the family's home was besieged by more than 200 demons. Moving wasn't an option as the family had no money to do so. The strange events seemed to go away for a short time, but then things got worse. The family said demons possessed Ammons and her children, then ages 7, 9, and 12. The kids' eyes bulged, evil smiles across their faces, and their voices deepened every time it happened. The youngest boy, then 7, sat in a closet talking to a boy that no one else could see. The other boy was describing what it felt like to be killed. Campbell said the 7-year-old once flew out of the bathroom as if he'd been thrown. The 12-year-old told mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she were being choked or held down so she couldn't speak. She said she heard a voice say she'd never see her family again. Finally, in desperation, they went to their family physician, Dr. Jeffrey O. What Ammons and Campbell say happened next was also detailed in a DCS report of a family case manager interviews with medical staff. On one of Dr. O's visits to Ammons' home, he said Ammons' son began cursing at him in demonic voices, raging at him. Medical staff said the youngest boy was lifted and thrown into the wall, with nobody touching him. According to a DCS report, the boy suddenly passed out. Someone from the doctor's office called 911. 7 or 8 police officers and multiple ambulances later showed up. The police and emergency personnel took the boys to the nearest hospital. Meanwhile, someone called DCS and asked the agency to investigate Ammons for possible child abuse or neglect. The caller, who is not named in the DCS report, speculated that Ammons might have a mental illness. The person believed the children were performing for Ammons and she was encouraging their behavior. What happened next would rattle the witnesses, and to some it would offer not only evidence but proof of paranormal activity. An account explained by Walker, the nurse. She said the 9-year-old had a weird grin on his face and walked backwards up the wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet. Later, police asked Walker whether the boy had run up the wall as though performing an acrobatic trick. No, Walker told him. She said the boy glided backward to the floor, wall, and ceiling, according to a police report. Ammons knew it was time to bring in an exorcist. Bishop Melsick was given permission by the Catholic Church along with Father Maginot to exorcise the family and the home. It wasn't an easy task. Bishop Melsick performed many exorcisms on both the family and the house. Many of the exorcisms performed were very graphic and sinister, and I'll have to leave a link in the description for you to read if you're interested. In the final exorcism performed on Ammons at the end of June 2012, Maginot said he prayed and berated the demons in Latin. Maginot said Ammons convulsed while he condemned the demons, but did not convulse during prayer. When she fell asleep, he said words of gratitude. It would be the last time Ammons saw Maginot. She and her mother drove back to Indianapolis, where they say they now live without fear. Ammons' old home on Carolina Street became an object of local curiosity, so much so that the owner and landlord, Charles Reed, called the Gary Police Department to ask officers to stop driving by the house because it was scaring his new tenant. Ammons regained custody of her 3 children in November 2012, about 6 months after they had been removed. DCS continued to check on the children and make sure they were going to school until the case closed. For her part, Ammons said it was not the psychologist who resolved her problems, it was God himself. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, one thing's for sure. We live in a world where strange things do happen, and families are put through a lot to overcome it. Many times we take our lives for granted and whine about the smallest of things, when in reality, we should admire all life around us, because you never know when all that can be taken away.